As the country observes the National Nutritional Week from the 9th to the 15th of October, it's important to acknowledge the high price South Africans pay for the disease burden related to our food choices. Now, communicable diseases like non-communicable diseases like high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes are prevalent and increasing. Merwe van der Merwe, the president of the Association for Dietetics in South Africa, joins me now for more on this. Merwe, thank you so much for your time this evening. I think, as South Africans, we play down, the fact that obesity and, the problem of being overweight has become actually a huge problem in this country. I think let's just first maybe unpack, what exactly the South African Demographic and Health Survey revealed. And I think maybe let's also, talk about how this impacts women and children specifically.
Thank you for the opportunity. Yes, absolutely. We do play down and sometimes even end up making light or rather, a bit of a joke about weight, because it actually is a serious matter, but it's very personal. And there are also many factors that affect weight and weight gain. So if we look at our situation in South Africa from our South African Demographic Health Survey back in 2016, so we do expect that the situation may have become worse in the past 7-8 years. From the data we have available, about 2 out of 3 women in South Africa are overweight or obese. And amongst men, the number is lower. About 1 in 3 men are overweight or obese. So it's particularly our females that have the highest burden of overweight and obesity. Also of concern, the overweight and obesity is increasing amongst young children, with around 13% of children under 5 years of age already being overweight. So as I've mentioned, we know that is on the increase and is therefore a significant public health concern because of the effect that the overweight and obesity has on our health, as you have mentioned. And that would also imply a significant burden on our health system with regards to the management of other diseases associated with overweight and obesity.
And I think, this then, begs the question, should there be some initiatives, put in place to combat this, but more particularly when it comes to these non-communicable diseases like hypertension, diabetes, all of these are linked to dietary choices.
Absolutely. Dietary choice is a difficult concept because we could argue that some people do not really have much of a choice when it comes to what they're eating because of all the structural factors that affect what is available and affordable to us. So when it comes to our nutrition choices, where we are able to choose, it plays a significant role. We do have a lot of initiatives in the country. For example, from a legislative point, we have got really strong laws in South Africa that regulates food. And over the past couple of years, we have seen regulations to put a maximum amount of sodium, in other words, salt, that specific food categories may contain. We have also seen the health promotion levy, or the so-called sugar tax, putting a tax on sugar-sweetened beverages that contain more than a specific cut-off of sugar. We're also looking at labeling regulations, and we recently had an opportunity as public to give inputs on draft labeling regulations that are intended to inform the public about what is in the food that we are eating. So it is a combination of knowledge and information to be shared with the public to know what are the better choices, as well as putting regulations and other interventions in place to protect the public from the potential of food items that may have, over a period of time, adverse effects on our health.
And just out of interest sake, you mentioned those regulations now, especially when it comes to sugar tax and the others that you mentioned, compared to the rest of the world and other countries, maybe even Africa specifically as well. How, does South Africa fare when it comes to that? Are we better at making these choices? And, also I think maybe how then, if not, can we improve, to make it better and to make sure that we as South Africans, eat healthier?
Again, wishing there was an easy answer, but because it's a complex situation with economic factors, cultural practices, availability, affordability, and all of these impacting on us, we are experiencing in South Africa what we refer to as the nutrition transition. So that is where a community or even a broader community like a country moves from a more traditional way of eating towards a more westernized way of eating because of different factors, including growth, economic growth and development. So it makes processed food more affordable. There are drive-throughs. You don't need to get out of the car. You buy a quick meal, supersize your meal, etc. And that does impact on what we eat. So over time, this nutrition transition is then associated with a higher intake of sugars, of fats, of salt, and then overall excess energy intake. So when it comes to trying to counter that, some of the main principles we are looking at is, specifically in the theme of this year's Nutrition Week, which is feel good with food, is to also try and support the self-efficacy of individuals to plan their own meals and prepare their own meals. So kind of go back to the tradition of planning a meal, shopping your groceries, preparing the meal, maybe as a family or have specific duties shared amongst the family members, rather than opting for that quick, easy option that is very often not the healthy choice or the healthy option available to us.
And let's talk about children. I think, this has also become a very huge problem when it comes to kids, obesity and overweight. So I think when it comes to our schools, what should be done there to also make sure that, kids get healthier meals at schools? Because we know sometimes, like you said, it's so much easier to get, the non-nutritional snacks at schools, etc. So I think, what's the importance here to make sure that, healthy eating starts at a very young age, and where can our schools also improve on this, and maybe even the education sector?
Most definitely. I think there's again two components. The one would first be information and education. So definitely a call for the school curriculum and the information and education that we give children on nutrition, for that to be aligned with our South African nutrition guidelines. So that is in terms of what children are taught about food and nutrition. But when it comes to the food environment at school, I think the first thing we're thinking of is tuck shops or vendors and the type of food that is usually for sale. So to look at alternative options, healthy options to also be available so that children would prefer maybe, for example, a fruit over a packet of crisps, to prefer to buy nice cold water or pack water from home. It's even easier if that is an option than a sweetened soft drink, to have those options available as a choice for the children. So we can definitely look at what is on offer on the property of a school or on the perimeter of a school where children very often are able to spend their money. Of course, we can also look at packing a meal from home, and again, starting with a principle of preparing that meal, focusing on fresh vegetables and fruits, whole grain as a base with your vegetables and fruits, and adding a bit of protein to that, which could be a spread like peanut butter, or a boiled egg if children are enjoying that. So looking at what we pack as well as what is available. So we're definitely advocating for guidelines to be implemented with regards to the school tuck shops and vendors that are on our school properties.
All right, thank you so much. That was Merwe van der Merwe, President of the Association for Dietetics. Of course, it is National Nutrition Week, and it already started on the 9th of October, and it will end on the 15th of October, just to spread awareness and, make South Africans realize that obesity is becoming a huge problem in this country, and it's time for us to start living and eating more healthily.